In this video, we're going to talk about a website named Ninite.com. What we're looking at here is a fresh installation of Windows 10. Once Windows 10 was installed, all of the available Windows updates have been installed, but that's all that has been done to the setup. Now, you've probably never installed Windows yourself, but if you had, you'd know that once you finish installing Windows, you usually still need to add more software to finish getting your computer set up. Just for example, PDF viewer software. Windows traditionally has not come with any software that could open a PDF file, so people have downloaded and installed programs like Adobe Reader. Another category are web browsers. Now on Windows 10, Microsoft Edge has replaced Internet Explorer, but a lot of people have already developed a preference for Firefox or Chrome. And there's also runtime software, things like Adobe's Flash software or Java from Oracle. Microsoft makes .NET and Silverlight, and these are mostly software that make a lot of the cool things possible, especially in the online world. Now, we're going to use Edge to go to Ninite.com and download some software. You can see this is the first time Edge has been run. So we're just going to switch over to this other tab. This is their welcome page. We'll just ignore that and let's go ahead and maximize this. Now, we're going to go to Ninite.com. And the way this works is pretty simple. When you go to their website, you land on this page and you go through this list of programs and you put a check mark in the software that you want to download and install on your computer. And I'll just pick a few of these. I don't want to pick anything that is one of the larger file sizes. For example, they have both LibreOffice and OpenOffice, which are open source, free Office suites with text editors like that are similar to Word and spreadsheets. Generally not quite as advanced as the Microsoft software, but it is a lot cheaper since these packages are both free and you would pick one or the other. Anyway, getting back on the subject, I'm just going to finish picking out a few things here. That's a good one. Audacity. You see we have things like iTunes, but that's a pretty large software package to install, so let's stay away from that for this demonstration. So once you've put a check mark in front of all of the programs you want to install on your computer, you just come down here and click this button that says Get Your Ninite. This takes you to the download page and triggers the download. Now I'm going to choose Save As since we're in Edge, because that will let me tell it go ahead and save it on the desktop. If you save it to your downloads folder, we'll move it over to the desktop. That's my recommendation, because you're going to want to use this over and over once you've got it on your computer. So we've got that downloaded, and I'll just get this out of the way, and here it is. We've downloaded it to the desktop. So we'll double click the installer and it will ask for permission to make changes to the computer. So we'll say yes. And I like to tell it to show details so I can see what's going on with the programs, how far along it is. And really, Ninite has streamlined this whole installation process. You don't get any offers of other software, and you don't get toolbars added to your browser. There's no changes to your home page. You don't even have to click next, next, next. Once you start it, the Ninite installer automatically downloads an app and installs it while it's downloading the next app. Once an app is installed, if you run the same installer in the future, instead of being an installer, it works as an updater and checks to see if there's any update for that software. But we'll talk about that in a different video, so look around for updating apps with Ninite or something like that. Now, a couple of questions come up a lot of times. What if you already have software installed on your computer, or how do you add apps to the Ninite installer? So let's say you already have iTunes installed on your computer. You've got your music there. You've been listening to your music with it. It's connected to your Apple account. If you add iTunes to the Ninite installer that you set up, then when you run that, Ninite will see that iTunes is already installed. So it will just check to see if there's any update for that iTunes that's on your computer. And if so, it will install the update. For the other question, unfortunately, you can't add apps to an existing Ninite installer, but you do have a couple of options. The first is probably the simplest. So you just go back to the Ninite.com website and you create another installer, a second installer. So you end up with two of them on your desktop, and the first installer, the original one, it might have 10 apps included in it. And when you wanted to get some more apps in the same system, you may have gone back and gotten a second installer that has 3 or 4 apps. So you just run one of those, and when it's finished, close it and then run the other. Now, the second option is a little more tedious, but it does keep things more streamlined. It keeps everything in one installer. And that is to go back to the Ninite.com site and go through the list and pick all the same apps as before, and then also pick the additional apps you want to include. Then just download that new installer that has both sets of apps in it, and delete the old installer and just start using the new one. Now, before we finish up, I wanted to mention a couple of things. The list of apps at Ninite.com does sometimes change. For example, they used to have Adobe Flash and Adobe Reader, but the Adobe software is no longer there. They had some other software that has also been removed, but interestingly, when you set up an installer with an application in it, if that application is removed from the Ninite website, the installer / updater that you got previously, that you had set up before, will continue to set up that app. So far, I haven't been able to find a time limit on that. So apparently that just means that Ninite's updater connects directly to the website where the software comes from. It's not relayed through their website. They don't download the updates and then pass them to you through their software. So that's probably about enough for this time. And in another video, we're going to look at using Ninite as an updater. And you see, now that we have these programs installed from running this installer, the next time we run it, it will check to see if there are any updates. And since we just installed them, of course, there are no updates. Everything is up to date. But in the other video, we'll talk about some of the problems you might occasionally run into, although they're rare. And we'll talk a little bit about what you may have seen in the background or down in the corner, the pro version of Ninite.com. So until then, thanks for watching, and I hope this video has been helpful. I'll see you next time.